Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Kakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to our younger brothers. And peace and blessing and salutation. Hopefully, they got them pushing His word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. All right. And what I want to get into today is some reading I was doing in the book of Ecclesiastes, the 8th chapter, going into the second verse, okay? And it just made me think of our vows, that we made to Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai, as we, taken on, all right, this ministry, the obligations and the commitment that comes with this ministry where we've taken a vow to our King, which is Yahweh Shai, okay? And we want to be found faithful in those vows, in His return. That's why scriptures say, blessed is he whom he shall find so doing, you know, which is still, all right, serving. Because even when we can't teach and we're just in a position to where we got to have to, where we're just having faith, where we're still being obedient to our King. All right, so we're going to come into circumstances to where we can't do videos, okay? We can't study, we can't research, all right? But still having faith in our King is being obedient. So we want to be faithful and obedient to our King, all right, even unto death if necessary, man. And Yahweh Shah was a great example of that, how he was obedient to the Father even in death, okay? So let's go into the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 8 and verse 2. All right, this is in the Living Bible, paraphrase. It says, obey the king as you have vowed to do. Don't always be trying to get out or doing your duty. Okay? So we are to obey the king as we, all right, have vowed to do. When we began to, teach and preach, and commit, make a commitment, we made a vow, you know, and we're, praying the Lord keeps the spirit on us to be obedient unto the end, because he that endured to the end. We have to endure, all right, in obedience, man. Okay, because our obedience to our King, okay, is going to put us, okay, in some uncomfortable situations going forward. It puts us in uncomfortable situations now, you know. It puts us in a situation to where we're not like unto this world. We have to break away the traditions of, our family, you know, because our people have been Christians for generations. They've been celebrating these wicked holidays for generations. They've been, believing in a certain type of way for generations. And for us to break away, they put us in an awkward position. They put us in in a position of uncomfort. Okay, because obeying the King in this world, obeying Yahweh Shai, we're bound, to be put in positions to be uncomfortable, man. Okay, but we'll take the temporary uncomfort, okay, to serve the King, all right, to be joint heirs with him, okay, and not rest forever. You see? So reading it again, this is Ecclesiastes 8 and 2, and all right, the Living Bible paraphrase says, obey the king as you have vowed to do. Don't always be trying to get out of doing your duty, even when it's unpleasant. Even when it's unpleasant. Okay, because serving Yahweh Shai in this world requires us to go against the grain. You see? So even when it's unpleasant, even when it's unpopular, even amongst those that know that they're Israelites, when you're truly serving Yahweh Shai, it can become unpleasant. Okay? This is not a thing of being liked and being popular. On the contrary, it's the opposite, man. You're going to receive hatred. You're going to receive ridicule. You're going to be lied upon. We got to suffer the same things Yahweh Shai had to suffer. And that's part of us drinking that cup. All right, was a rite of passage to being a joint heir. Okay? So we're being tested as we're serving Yahweh Shai in a system that's anti-Messiah. Okay? Matter of fact, read this again. Ecclesiastes 8:2. It says, obey the king as you have vowed to do. Don't always be trying to get out of doing your duty, even when it's unpleasant. For the king punishes those, all right, who disobey. And there's a punishment for disobedience, man. That's why the scriptures speak about many stripes for those that know the will and didn't obey. You see, we're not here to be politically correct. We're not here to, all right, as you have guys teaching false doctrine, we're not here to try to make sense of the madness, okay, for the sake of going along and get along. No, that's another part of our duty to our King Yahushua to call things out, because he called things out. Okay, we're not here to go along and get along just for the sake we know we Israelites. No, we're here to call things out because Yahushua called things out. Okay, we call things out amongst ourselves. Okay, amongst GMS, the body. Hey, things get called out. For what? The forwarding of edification, for the continue on of the building. Things have to be called out. If we're building something and someone is, okay, has a wrong measurement, okay, has something fastened to where it doesn't supposed to be fastened to, or there's screws or bolts missing to where they need to be, well, hey, they got to be called out. Look, this need, this need this type of bolt. Okay? No, this need this type of wood. This wood going outside, it got to be this type of wood. No. So if you're building something, okay, something is off, well, you will call that thing out. Okay? So as we're building this third temple, all right, as the Lord, has made us overseers in the spirit. Okay, well, there's certain things that have to be called out, all right, for the continuation of the building, because you have certain things that are no compromise because of safety. When you're building certain things, you have certain safety codes, and things that can't be compromised for the fact of safety, like the MOTB. Okay, you can't just bypass that and casually brush that off. It could be, it might be, no, that has to be understood. All right, that's a major safety code. Okay, because of the consequences of not knowing what that is. Okay, see, you can afford not to know how old David was when he fought Goliath, his exact age. Okay, you can afford not to know that. Okay, but you cannot afford not to know what the MOTB is. That's a safety hazard. Okay, within this building we're building, man. Okay, so let's go from there, because I say going back, we obey Yahushua even when it's inconvenient. So the Lord puts us in test to see if we'll inconvenience ourselves for His sake. Because we come to a time where we're finna have to inconvenience ourselves on a whole nother level. That's why you go here to the book of let's get to the book of Luke. Let's get to the book of Luke. It's the book of Luke chapter 9. And oh yeah, I started 23. Yeah, it's tough. This is the book of Luke chapter 9, verse 23. Then he said to all, anyone who wants to follow me must, all right, it said, then he said to all, this Luke 9:23. Then he said to all, this is Yahweh speaking. Then he said to all, anyone who wants to follow me must put aside his own desires and conveniences. Anyone who wants to follow me must put aside his own desires and conveniences and carry his cross with him every day and keep close to me. Going back, this is orders from a king. This is Yahweh Shah speaking, so these are direct orders from my king. So anyone that wants to follow him, okay, must put aside his own desires. Okay? We're not here to forward a rap career. Okay, we're not here to be celebrities on the internet, be these podcasts, okay, icons. Okay, we're not here for filthy lucre to, enrich ourselves. You see, these little personal desires we had in this world, see, all those things get put aside. Our King demands it of us, man. He commands it of us, man. Okay, you got to put off these personal desires. Man. Put that little bullshit off, man. Okay, we got other things to tend to, which is the edification of the body. Okay, the growth. All right, as we're growing into what a class. We're growing back. All right, into being nobility, being highborn, to being rulers. Okay, there's a process we got to go through. Part of that process is putting off the desires of this wicked world, because everything in this society is wicked, is corrupted. Anything that's to be desired of this world is wicked, is tainted, and is corrupted, man. And it gets in the way of the process of us, all right, becoming what we need to be for the sake of our King, Yahweh Shah, man. Okay? And it says, then he said to all, anyone who wants to follow me must put aside his own desires and conveniences and carry his cross with him every day and keep close to me, keep close to him. And this is the time to lock in, man. We need to be up under your house, man. Okay, this is time for us to be up under as we see, okay, what's happening, what's coming down the pipe, man. This is the time to be up under your house, like I'm here. Like you're a little, you maybe follow, your big brother, big cousin, older kids in the neighborhood you looked up to, man. You know, when they turn around, they falling over you, man, because you own them. You intrigued. You're trying to soak it all in. So you will be like their shadow, man. And this is how we should be on your house shot in these times, man. We need to be close up on them. Okay, going into the times that we're coming into. You see, and it says, whoever loses his life for my sake will save it, but whoever insists on keeping his life will lose it, man. So we're constantly losing our lives daily. We're dying daily. Certain circles we're disappearing from. Certain people don't hear from us anymore. You know, certain things we used to frequent, we don't do. Certain interests we had, we drop. And we get new interests. Because the Lord, because we're coming back to life. There's so much that goes into life, that we've been stripped from, man. So we're getting back to life, man. I find myself, just listening to the classical music, burning certain smells, you know, and just, releasing, meditating, man. It's so much to get back to because this life is so full of vain clutter, you know. I got to tap back into, my oils like I used to, and, certain things. But at the end of the day, it's so much to tap into, it's so much to learn about the body, so much to learn, let's say about the earth, how things function, you know. The earth, just the earth has so much wisdom, to be understood. Okay, and these things were created to forward life. You see, this culture of the American culture, this beast system is all about okay, entertainment and death. You know, well now we're coming back to life, man. So we begin to lose, all right, a part of our old life, but we're gaining new life in Yahweh Shai. The old man is constantly being hacked away at, just constantly hacking away at that nigga, man. You know, until and when we grow in Yahweh, because when we remove a piece of that old man, well, Yahweh Shai can grow in that area. When we remove that old man, okay, Yahweh Shai can grow, okay, in that area that we remove. So as we constantly putting off, That old man, where Yahushua can grow in that area and fill that void. You see, and when Yahushua fills that void, you don't want to go back to that old nigga, that old man. You know, you'll be ashamed. You know, you got the flesh, and you got these urges, but Yahushua is so present, man. It's a level of shame to be like, nah, man, the hell I'm doing. You know? And it says, whoever loses his life for my sake will save it, but whoever insists on keeping his life will lose it, man. So trying to hang on to these worldly desires and, trying to rekindle, okay, that old man, and trying to play both sides, man. You're gonna end up losing your house shot. Cause one thing about it, your house shot don't stick around, all right, for the foolishness, man. Okay, the shit niggas be on your house shot. The spirit of your house shot not sticking around for that, man. Okay, you want to be a reality TV star? Okay, you want to be a podcast celebrity? Okay, but your house shot not sticking around for that shit, man. The spirit of your house shot. The spirit of your house shot is about his father's business, man. Okay, he's not into none of this bullshit. That's why the scriptures say that wisdom fleeth from malicious soul. Okay, you want to be this and that, and you got this going on, and okay, but the spirit is out of there. So you want to try to hang on to certain things in this world and try to establish yourself in this world, cool. But the spirit of Yahweh Shai gonna be out of there. You're gonna lose it. Okay? Yahweh Shai gonna get up out of there, man. He about business, man. Yahweh Shai is very business oriented, man. Okay? The relationship we have with Yahweh Shai is based on love, but it's also based on conditions. It's also very transactional as well. Okay? That's why you go here. I think that's the book of John. All right, this is the book of St. John, chapter 15. Okay. This is St. John 15 and 9. It says, I have loved you even as the Father has loved me. Live within my love. Okay? So, Yahweh Shai, the love that the Father has for him, okay, he has that love for the church, the body, the true believers. Okay? And he's like, look, live within my love. Now, how do we live within that love? Live within my love. When you obey me, you see that? Obedience. When you obey me, okay? And see, people think that they can, like this world, people try to obey in a way that they want to obey. There's they try to obey in a way that accommodates their own personal desires. Okay? But no, there's a standard, there's a specific way to obey. Okay, so the Yahweh Shai is saying, obey me. Okay? It says, when you obey me, you are living in my love, just as I obey my Father and live in his love. Okay? Because Yahweh Shai was the greatest example. Because even the cross, he was asking for another way. But when he didn't get no response, he understood that this is the only way. Okay? He understood that this was the only way. All right? So it wasn't about what he wanted to do. Okay, it wasn't about him having a bright idea in that moment. It was about just being obedient to what was already laid out. Okay, that's the obedience that Yahweh Shai requires from us. Not trying to alter their obedience to make it fit how you think it should be or how you want it to be. No, man, we got to obey according to what's written, man. Okay, and it says, when you obey me, you are living in my love, just as I obey my Father and live in his love. I have told you this so that you will be filled with my joy. Yes, your cup of joy will overflow. I demand that you love each other as much as I love you. Going back to the commandments of the king, I demand that you love each other just as I love you. Okay? So answer me this: if the true love spreading false doctrine, look at the confusion that men are putting out there, but they present themselves as just these loving niggas. Okay, is that they have, your best interest in mind, but they're confusing the hell out you going into the worst time ever. We in a clutch of prophecy, man. We right here in the thick of it. And these men, okay, are pushing confusion. Okay? That's not love. Bearing false witness, slandering, that's not love. Grifting you, extorting you financially, that's not love. And we're commanded to love one another as Yahweh Shah loved us, man. Yahweh Shah wasn't grifting and extorting the church and doing all. So why would we do that? Okay? So let's go here. It says, I have told you this so that you will be filled with my joy. All right. It says, and here is how to measure it. The greatest love is shown when a person lays down his life for his friends. And you are my friends if you obey me. You are my friends if you obey me. Okay. So our friendship with Yahweh Shai is based on obedience, man. So we should be tapped into obedience. Okay. In these times, man. And the Lord wants us to, all right, be faithful to the Heavenly Father. Okay, and he wants us to treat our neighbor as thyself. And he wants us to teach and edify the church, man. Okay, and lose our life in this world, all right, and come after him. Okay, all right. So that's the obedience that's required of us, man. Okay, so that's the point. Just wanted to go into that. Lord will, you brothers. All right, and you sisters edified. Once again, I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders, GMS, who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutation, hopefully, shalom.